Good morning, everyone. My name is David Wilson, and I'm here to introduce this morning's pastoral personality. She is none other than Mary Shaw, the 103-year-old longtime resident of Pakenham and a member of St. Andrews. Now, Mary was born and raised in what you and I know today as the Pakenham General Store, but of course in Mary's day that was known as Scott's Store. Mary and her family lived in the apartment, which is part of that building, and lived there much of her adult life as well as being born and raised there. Being born in 1917, Mary would have gone up the hill to the Methodist Church with her mother and father, up beside St. Peter Celestine, for her first few years at church and Sunday school. She would have heard her mother play the organ and direct the choir and that kind of thing. And then, of course, in 1925, the congregations got together at St. Andrews down on the main street. Mary is a longtime member of the church, participated in everything that was going on. She was a member of the WMS, and which subsequently became United Church Women's Association. And she sang in the choir all of her adult life. She often played the piano for groups, and if the organist was away, she might fill in on occasion for the organist. She, of course, helped out with UCW and all of those kinds of things, and so she was actively involved in the church all of her adult life. Around 1990, under the leadership of Tom Lowry, we built 5 arches in Pakenham, and Mary Shaw and Mary Scott were amongst the first 2 tenants in 5 arches. And Mary Shaw only left 5 arches, I think a little less than 3 years ago. She now resides at the villa in Arnprior. She still walks regularly and visits by a phone, of course, these days, and has remarkable health for a lady of 103. So I present to you the interview with Mary Shaw.
This is Brian Thompson speaking. I was talking to Marilyn about doing some kind of interview for the church.
Oh yes.
And now's probably not the best time. When would you like me to give you a call?
Let me see. Well, how about tomorrow afternoon, early-ish in the afternoon before this?
Okay, 1 o'clock?
Better leave it to 1:30, I guess.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything in particular you want to talk about, or is?
Well, I was really very loath to let Marilyn give you my name. Actually,
Yeah.
I don't know what is wanted, what you want to know, sort of.
Well, it's not nothing very formal at all. It's just kind of a way of people kind of staying in contact with you, finding out what you're doing, and something about the history of the church. I think people who have been in the church for a long time get shaped by the church, and can have insights into how the church works and where you can find the good things in the church. And so I think talking to people who have had long experience in the church, UCW, quilting, playing music, that kind of stuff, have a very strong sense of where the direction people can go in the church, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for just a normal conversation about what you did and what you thought was important, and pass that kind of wisdom on to other people in the church.
Well, I suppose we can try, but I hardly know what to. She would have told you I'm 103.
Yes, I hear. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Uh, so I hardly know what to say really, and
well,
I really prefer not to be trying it at all.
well, it's of course entirely up to you. I'm not going to ask you to do it if you don't feel comfortable.
I I always went to church. Well, of course, that's the way my parents on both sides of the house came from Methodists.
Yes.
Fairly staunch Methodists, and then into the United Church, and I never was taking a real active part with any great what should I say? I did play the piano quite a bit for hymns one way and another, and I was secretary of the UCW, but I wasn't taking much organizing parts. I was just following what others might be doing and what I might be asked to do. So I was in the choir for years and so on. And I certainly found that if I didn't go to church regularly, one soon gets out of the habit of going. And
yes.
One summer, I just when I was working, but I really, and I do think for a good many years now, a lot of people who haven't been who have gotten out of the habit of going to church, they still think it's the same old way and routine.
Yeah.
And they never come to see that things have changed greatly, to find out that maybe they'd be more interested than they thought they would be, and so on and so forth. But I do think the coming together, meeting in church is it needs to be in some form or another, and a certain organization, or it just does fall apart.
Yes.
And so I really don't know.
Well, that's just. I mean, I'm kind of curious. I mean, your parents were Methodists. Did they
Yes.
go to a house church? Did they have like the church?
Oh no, there was a church in Pakenham,
Okay.
a Methodist church, and a Presbyterian church as well, and so on. My mother was a very talented musician, and
okay.
I think she played the church for the music for a church from her mid-teens until she had a very heavy stroke when just in her early 40s. It was just a tragedy.
Oh.
She had led the choir and so on, played the organ, and she so that yes, my background was church-going people.
Yes.
And as I grew up, I followed all right, but it wasn't didn't take as active a part as both my parents did in
Yeah.
positions, in
Yes.
the church. Actually, I was
Well,
there, but
yes. What about your dad? Was he a musician as well?
well, he did learn to play the cello
Oh, did
to a
he?
certain
Yeah.
degree,
Oh, nice.
and he played. Mother had him. I guess our bass section was maybe a little bit needed some help, so he would
Yeah.
be playing the cello
Yes.
behind the bass, and for a good many years he did that, and he wasn't professional by any means, something like my mother, but he liked doing it, and so there was always music in my background, and both families and so on. Um, and so I, I really,
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same. I'm a musician, but my parents weren't musicians. I started as a musician
yeah.
when I got into my 20s. I was playing in classical music. I was a bassoonist, and so kind of like a cello, but a wind instrument. And the bass. It's like a bass oboe. It's
I
a
see.
very low instrument. Like it plays the same range as a cello, basically. So,
Yes. Well.
and so that I often had to back up the basses and
Oh,
the musicians at the church. So I understand that completely. You're always helping them out because it can be pretty thin sometimes
yeah.
in the men.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but
well,
I don't think we're not, none of us are superstars in the church.
oh,
We just all take our
no,
part.
not too many of us are
No,
that.
no. But I understand you were interested in quilting. My wife is a great quilter. She loves to quilt, and
Well, I learned to quilt just midlife, I guess. And, there was a group for quilting, and I said it was one place, and of course we women talked and chatted,
yes.
and I said. There's one place anyway you could talk away. You didn't have to think very much. You just talked, and kind of easy. Well, we had that a good many, and we made a lot of money. We sold the quilts and made a lot of money.
And
for our church.
Just for the church or for the
Yes, for the church. Yeah. Oh yes, we did a lot of it. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So
did you have quilting bees, or did you just everybody just did their own?
No, it was every week.
Yes.
At least it varied. I guess it started shortly after World War II, actually, and then went on until I think it was not that many years ago. There was some real good quilters were leaders in it, and they loved to quilt, and so we had regular meetings and so on, and that I learned to quilt as well as I could anyway. So
it's a hard thing to do. I know Kelty's grandmother. Her grandfather was a minister in the United Church out on the East Coast, and she would go to the quilting times, and then she'd do some quilting, and then somebody else would take it all the stitches and redo them.
Oh dear.
I guess people are very particular about stitches.
Oh yes, some of them. I wasn't like some of them at it, and anyway, they put up with me. Those were the good ones.
I can just take what we're talking about now and just turn it into an interview if you like. I mean, we're almost done. We talked about lots of things today, and I can just do that if you like.
You're saying let this little talk do.
Oh yeah, this would be
Yes.
fine. I think
Well,
it would be.
that'll be fine with me.
Can I ask you about the UCW though? I mean, were you involved in with the Women's Missionary Society or this group?
Well, yes, I was first in the WMS, WMS, and then the UCW. Yeah.
Yeah, that changed some in the 50s, did it? I think, or was it right after the Second World War?
Yes, I just let me see now. It was late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah.
And that it changed to the UCW.
But did that change? I mean, I've read something about it in the church history.
Yeah.
But what was that like to go from I mean, the women's missionary group was doing a lot of active work all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And then the UCW kind of changed. It was kind of a change of purpose and change of direction.
Yes, the overseas work changed quite a bit. People didn't go out. Well, it came to the point where they didn't go as missionaries unless they were asked to certain countries or certain places, and were wanted as missionaries. They could be teachers or ministers or different nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, first there'd been the WMS, and the other one was the women's church organization for local work, and that was the oh dear, I know it well enough.
The Women's Institute? No, that was something.
No,
else.
not the institute, but it was like that too, but not the church.
Okay.
Well, the WA, the Women's Auxiliary, I think that was what it was. Yeah, I think that was what it was. And then it just became the one organization, the UCW.
I know my mother was in the UCW almost all her whole life. She really enjoyed it. I mean, she's gone about 20 years now, but well, she I mean, it was everything for her. It was her social group, her friends, you know.
Yeah. Well, that was it. Yes, we had quite a good one, and then it petered out, you know. And then, of course, in later years, so many of the women were working.
Yes.
The wives were working, and so on.
Now this is at Pakenham United Church or at St. Andrews?
Yes, Pakenham.
Okay.
I was born and brought up there.
Oh, were you?
Well, it was always my home base. I did work in Ottawa 2 different times, and one time I was boarding in Ottawa, and that was in wartime, and but I would go home every weekend, and so Pakenham was always. Oh yes, I'm an original.
Okay. Well, I mean, what kind of work did you do in the town when you were working those times?
In Ottawa?
Yes, were you?
Oh, I was in the government, just ordinary some office work.
Yes, that's what my wife does. She's an editor, and she does that work.
Oh yeah, well, I was very nothing important, but we needed the money, so I went back to work.
If it wasn't for all us unimportant people, would anything ever get done? I'll tell you. You know.
So yeah. Well, I think maybe maybe I've given you the gist of.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, Mary. I hope we get a chance to meet each other. I don't know when all this COVID stuff is going to be over. I hope you've been okay.
Oh dear, yeah. Yes, I'm very lucky to be in this place here.
Yes.
In Arnprior. And yes, Marilyn keeps me well posted.
Yes.
And she's always been a church person and very, very active.
So I think one of the messages I heard you say just before we go and end up, You were saying that, people should come back and check out this church, see what's going on now, because it's a living, breathing organism. It's something that's very alive. And
Well, I still get I'll call it the new magazine,
yes,
Broadview,
Broadview.
and but I can't read, like my eyes are in such a state I can't not read like I used to, but I still read it from cover to cover. I'm just wondering how much longer I can do it, depending on how long I live, of course.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Well, I hope you have many years ahead of you. How's life for you? Pretty good. I mean, I can't. I'm in my 60s now, so I don't know what it's going to be like when I get older. What's it like? What's it like for you to be over 100?
I never wish anybody to live this long. I say
No?
there's too many of us living too long right now. Because there's so many old people now that I say they don't know what to do with us, for goodness sake. I've been very fortunate. As I say, this place is. I've been here a little over 3 years now,
Yes.
and I found it very good, really, very fortunate to be in this place. And we didn't have any. Well, in this Iron Prior region here, there hasn't been the virus,
No.
the COVID,
Yes.
and we've been very fortunate right around here, and we're still getting all our meals in our rooms. That was they started that some weeks ago now,
Yes.
quite a few weeks ago, and we're still being done. And just beginning, first of all, maybe about 3 weeks ago, they arranged that people could visit outside and have a tenant, a resident, go out to visit with family or whoever it was. Only 2 people,
Yes.
and now they have a room that, well, particularly if it's not a good day, that they can come in and meet. I think it's once a week. They of course it's usually family. So bit by bit, they're being very careful in here, and I think they started in good time to lock us down. And I mean, we still can't go out. The residents, if we go out away from the place and come back in here, we're in quarantine for 2 weeks. I don't know what I do in one room. Oh my gosh! Because I walk.
Yes. Good. Do you have family and stuff that can come in to see you?
Not too much. Well, you'll have met David Wilson, eh?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's my first cousin.
Yes.
A lot younger than I am. So he and his wife are my backup around here. I only have my son now in Toronto. My daughter died of cancer a number of years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
And so, and then I still have friends from Pakenham that I'm in touch with by telephone. They haven't been able to come to see me yet. And no, I'm green with envy with these residents who have quite a lot of family members who can come in and visit or say hello anyway, or something. However, I'm kind of a loner in a way, in many ways, and I've always liked to read. So, yes, and now of course I'm at the age where I fall asleep easily. If my eyes get too tired, I can just close them and go to sleep in the chair.
Wow.
That puts in time. So I don't find the time long.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Mary, it's just been so wonderful talking to you. I didn't quite know what we were going to talk about, but you filled in the time pretty well, I thought. Thank you very much for everything, and I hope we'll talk again sometime soon.
Well, yes, Marilyn, as I say, keeps me posted, and shop and mentions you. Yeah.
Well, I'm up in Arm Prior all the time, so when it becomes possible, I'll drop in to see you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right then.
All
So
right.
long.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.